Bismillah, we begin in the name of Allah. I want to thank you all for taking time out and joining us here for our Sunday Islam 101 class. It's something we do every Sunday, so thank you so much. I know some of you had other commitments as well this morning with we had some classes in Spanish earlier, and we're going to have another one, and also we had our Quran class that I think started again today after the winter break, so some of you have been really busy since morning, so may Allah reward you all. So today, of course, it's no different. We're very honored. Every week we try to switch up the speakers to have different topics so that we can all kind of understand different topics about within Islam. Today we have our dear brother Jesse Maroney. Jesse is one of our coordinators for the Link Outside program. Brother Jesse is one of our coordinators for the Link Outside program. As you guys know, we have a full-time program here called Link Outside. What we do is we go into prisons and jails, and we meet with people that either are interested about Islam or they have become Muslim or converted to Islam inside prisons, brothers and sisters, right, males and females. So if you're interested in maybe a pen pal system where we're writing to our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated or actually going and visiting them, please see Brother Jesse at the end of class, or you can see myself as well. But this is something, it's an excellent program that we have here. And we want to make sure that we support our brothers and sisters that might be incarcerated and locked up, inshallah. Of course, he's one of, he graduated, I think, from California Islamic University as well, just at the tail end of graduating as well. He's been here for many years, and one of the beautiful things about Jesse is that he also converted to Islam a long time ago, so he has a lot of experience working with people that might be new to Islam and also getting fundamental principles down. So it is an honor to have my dear brother Jesse here with us here today. So without further ado, Brother Jesse.
Let me take this for you. Shukran, Habibi. Thank you. You good? Okay, close. Allah. Okay, there we go. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. How's everybody today? Good? Alhamdulillah, everybody's all right? The food is okay? Inshallah. Make sure they give you good food here, all right? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم افتح علينا فتح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين وانفعنا اللهم بالقرآن والذكر الحكيم اللهم آمين. One of the things for the newcomers to Islam or anybody who's interested, when you come to places of knowledge or places where sacred knowledge, what they'll call it, is being disseminated, there's a certain etiquette many times that we have when coming to these places, when it comes to somebody teaching. Number one is the thing that we seek refuge with God, because we're coming to this place to get away from the nonsense within our lives. We're trying to learn something to hire ourselves, to help ourselves develop. So a lot of times you'll hear the people say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, which means I seek refuge in God from the rejected shaitan. And this is also to a higher aspect that we want to be within truth within our lives, not in a delusional state of mind. That's one of the things that's a higher understanding of us saying that, is not just that the devil influences us in our lives, but also we sometimes get into our own deluded states. And then also starting stuff off in the name of God, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. So one of the things that you can always judge your actions on, can you actually say in the name of God when you're doing them? If your actions are not in accordance with that, you might want to change the action, right? You might want to reevaluate. And we all slip and fall and things of that nature. That's part of life. But that's a good litmus test. That's a good test to say, are we doing something that can be saying Bismillah behind it? And when you can do that, you'll see many fruits within your life from those actions. Not just in the next world, but also in this world. Many benefits from those types of actions that are grounded in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So you hear this, and then I made a very quick prayer to Allah, a quick prayer to God, that if He gives us experiential knowledge of Him, actual heartfelt knowledge, not just knowledge that's just intellectual that we feel in our hearts the closeness to God. And then also, too, that he give us guidance in everything that we do. And then we get to learn the beautiful wisdom behind the Quran. That was the actual dua that I made so that everybody understands, inshallah ta'ala. So, alhamdulillah, also, too, one of the things to remember when you come into a space like this, especially when it's a circle of knowledge, there's a lot of things that go on outside of just what you see. So that's another thing. Angels are present. There's a beautiful light that comes down from God. So like the little things how you can see when you start to get in these types of settings, what starts to happen into your mind. What starts to happen with your feelings. Just like when we were in the prayer, if you take a look at the difference of your state of when you went into the prayer and then when you come out of the prayer. You know? And sometimes when we're so far into certain things and we go into prayer, sometimes you still hold on to the stuff that you went into prayer with. So it's a beautiful thing, but these places are points of change. These places are really points of change, and really open yourself up during this time. You know, it's a real blessing that we even have this, that we have food here, that we have inviting people. And I've known, because I've been around with some of these brothers and sisters for a while now, the rotation of change that has come through this place. It's really a blessed place. So open yourself up when you come into these times. So the topic that I want to talk about today, because Jamal just asked me what is the actual topic before I came here, right? So is relief in our belief. Relief in our belief. It's a little catchy phrase, right? So one of the things that the Prophet, peace be upon him, Muhammad said, is that like the deen is ease. Our way of life as Muslims is ease. Okay? And so one of the things you might start saying is, well, okay, how does that translate, you know? You know, we have to wake up for prayer. You have to make wudu. You have certain restrictions in your life, right? You have certain things that you're held accountable for. You know, you start seeing rules and regulations sometimes even from when you're a new Muslim coming in or a non-Muslim perspective. But in reality, these rules and regulations, in reality, these parameters that we have to follow, in reality, these actions that we have to begin to perform within our lives to keep our connection with the divine serve as a source of relief and actual freedom. And this is when you begin to actually enact this faith. Not just from an intellectual level, but also too from a spiritual level. And also too on an emotional level. When you begin to holistically put this religion together, it offers this. And if you have non-Muslims also too in your life, they get some of the benefits from that, and you can talk to my mom, who's here today, for some of these benefits just of Islam in and of itself. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the benefit, first and foremost, because I'll probably be here maybe next month and the following month. So, that's my mom. Yeah, mashallah. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is some of the relief within understanding what we believe about God or about Allah. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, I've gotten the opportunity to go to some different countries like Morocco, Turkey, to different scholars in Canada and different places, and been able to sit in different circles of knowledge by the blessings of Allah. And when you start going over traditional textbooks in Islam, they have certain phrases and certain ways that they categorize things. They basically codify certain subjects so that you can understand it well. It's kind of like, you know, when you get like a driver's test manual, and they tell you what you have to study for the actual test, right? Well, the same thing's about a lot of books in Islam. They tell you what you need to know about Allah. What you need to know Allah is, what He isn't. What you need to know about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you can go into different subjects. About the angels. About all these different things they begin to speak about because people have experienced this. People have understood this, right? And it's also too within the Quran and within the way of our Prophet, peace be upon him, that certain things are understood. So I just want to go over quickly, and I went over this a long time ago at one of these classes, but it's been quite a long time. There are some obligatory things or some mandatory things we need to know about Allah. And these will help you within your life, and I'll give just a brief commentary on each one and a little bit of how they help you in your life. Okay? And they help you in so many tremendous ways. Okay? But, you know, alhamdulillah, they will, trust me, they will help. Number one, the first thing, the first attribute that we have to understand, and I'm just going to do it in English because the Arabic terminology, it's not really the biggest to know the Arabic in this situation. It's actually, the biggest thing is to actually know the concepts, to know actually the knowledge behind this. So they call it a self-attribute. So that's how you'll actually term it in English, self-attribute. And the first thing that we need to know with this self-attribute of Allah is that He exists, existence. That the existence of God is real. This is number one. This is one of the primary things. Now, if you take a look at, and I'm just going from a situation of just research and certain things, that anthropologists and many people have studied people, like the people who study people, right? The subject of actually studying civilizations, different places. Inshallah. But different civilizations, different places where people have come together and started to formulate societies and civilizations and cultures and things of that nature. One of the things that we have seen continuously through human existence, that there has always been a worship or a veneration of the divine, of a God. Now, some obviously have gone into multiple gods, some 2, 3, right? But there always has been an understanding that there is a higher power. Now, one of the things, what starts to happen, that we see that's a natural inclination of ourselves, right? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that every human being is born on the natural inclination towards God, fitrah. That every human being is born on that. But it's their society that begins to change it a little bit sometimes, right? So they start messing up the beautiful communication that's there, or the gift. They start interpreting it wrong, right? So we believe in one God, right? Well, sometimes, if you're not guided, you'll think that there's multiple powers out there sometimes, because the world is very complex. The world is very complex. It's a complex place of multiplicity. So you can get mixed up in some of these things. But we still see at all of it, and even when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Quran addresses this in many places, right? That the people understood of the higher power of ultimately Allah. Everybody understands that, pretty much. Now, when you go against that, so now this is the point of relief, right? Relief in our belief. When you go against that, you're actually going against something that is natural. So you're actually doing the process of covering up something that's already within inside of you. And that's where you get the term in the Quran, kuffar. Right? It's a nasty term sometimes that people use, right? The kuffar do this, right? You hear this sometimes as you begin to circle certain Islamic circles, hopefully not too much. But people utilize it in a very, very negative way all the time at some points. But what it means is, it is actually taking the natural inclination of belief and covering it. So that's what it actually means. So one of the necessary parts of us as human beings is to understand that Allah, our God, exists. And with that, then the relief starts to come, because now you have order and organization, and this is where all these other attributes come into play now. Okay? So if you could just take a look at it as a thought process mindset, right? If there's no organization out here in this world, right? Because some of it we can see, some of it we can't. Very clear things is like when the rain falls, right? What happens? The water hits the ground, it saturates, goes into the soil. There's seeds, there's things that grow, vegetation, things that we can eat, things that we consume. There's even order in certain things that we consume. Certain things we consume have different effects. If a horse eats alfalfa grass compared to hay, there's a difference in what begins to happen to the horse. If a human being drinks alkaline water and drinks water that has high acidity to it, there's a difference in what that process begins to happen in their body. There's even differences. There's all organization and structure. And some places need high acidity for certain things in this world. Certain soils are certain ways. Some is dry, completely dry, right? There's even reasons why certain natural fires happen from lightning. Right? They actually did a whole study on that. I watched a whole program on that, of actually natural fires, not the ones that when people throw cigarettes out into the woods and then it burns down the whole thing. But actual natural fires, it actually takes the shrubs and the different things that grow and actually burns it all down, but it actually starts a process within the actual soil to make things grow even more. So it's like a clearing process. So like these things have all these there's this amazing wisdom within everything. But if you don't understand that God exists, this world is going to look completely chaotic. Now, this is the beauty about our belief, again, because we're just getting into this initial attribute that I want to get into, just a little bit about the existence. Again, without the belief in God, this thing, it's going to be really chaotic. People are going to be super cruel. Things that are going to happen to you in life are going to look horrible. But if you have an understanding of wisdom and hold on to seeing things with wisdom, with God involved in it, then the story starts to make sense. Story starts to make a lot of sense. Then it's like, oh, there's actually a wisdom behind things, right? And as you begin to graduate in your belief or elevate in your belief, then more things open up to you. This really does happen. I'm telling you guys all the truth here. I'm telling you from what I experienced. A lot of different things. My mom probably could tell you a lot too. So there's a lot of different things, but it happens. It really does actually happen. So alhamdulillah. So number one, God exists. That's the self-attribute. Now, when we take a look at our phrase when we begin to enter into this faith, right? One of the things that we say is, La ilaha illallah, right? That there is no deity worthy of worship except God or except Allah, right? So we would negate any other power, any other source, any other real existence except God. Meaning that we exist because God allows us to exist, because ultimately He is the infinite existence. Okay, it's a very deep thing. But one of the things that we have to understand is the first thing that we say is actually La. La. That means no, right? So it's a negation. So it's very important for us to negate certain things. Okay? It's very important for us to negate certain things. And that's why in the scholarly text, you'll see that there is what they call negating attributes. So these are certain things that we need to understand that God is, like He is, but it's negating certain things. Okay? So what do I mean by that? One of the number one attributes about negating is how they term it in English. I guess it would be beginninglessness. Like there is no beginning for Him. That God actually has no beginning. Now for us, how does this work, right? Because everything begins here. Well, because we're created. We're actually created, right? And if you go to certain textbooks, even in philosophy, they have what they call infinite regression, right? That it has to actually go back to something that finally gets to a source that's infinite, that had no beginning, no ending. Even the philosophers understand this. So, again, that God actually has no beginning. It's not like us. Because if you start putting that in your mind, well, then you almost begin to make God human. And certain things come from that. So you say, well, what's the big deal maybe about thinking that? Well, there's a lot of things that begin to happen. Because then God acts impulsively like a human being. And certain things are happening to you because God's angry at you like a human being. Oh, no, it doesn't work like that. It's not actually working like that. And the beautiful thing about our religion, again, like I said, relief in our belief, is that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said for any believer, like everything for a believer is actually good. Everything happening to you is actually good. This is very interesting. So you transcend, in your belief, you begin to actually transcend things that harm you. He said everything for a believer is actually good. If it's something that troubles them or bothers them, and they pull into the realm of patience, then that is a reward and a benefit for them. And does anybody know what's inside of patience? Does anybody know? I don't know if anybody's going to know it, but there's a saying that the scholars say. Does anybody know what's inside of patience, being patient? Huh? Okay, so she's actually right. They say that all the virtues lie within inside of patience. That you can't have any of the virtues without having a level of patience. You can't have any of them. Even knowledge, learning things. You have to be patient with obtaining it, enacting it in your life, passing it on, or period, point blank. Even some God-given gifts, you have to be patient with it. You have to learn some type of restraint in holding it in, right? So, again, the Prophet said, for something that harms us or we don't like, if you're patient with it, then it's good, meaning like it benefits you. And if something is given to you that you like, you say, Alhamdulillah, you praise Allah more, and that benefits you even more. Because you're always in this spectrum of being close to God through whatever situation you may be. You're always connected. You're always connected. And I tell you this from experience, as if you have something that seems to be a tribulation to people, when you enact your faith, you'll actually see it as a benefit. You'll actually feel that as a benefit. It'll be something that actually benefits you. Even if it doesn't feel good in the beginning, it'll be something that you learn from. And 9 times out of 10, I know for me, 10 times out of 10 or 11 times out of 10, it's always been because I've made some stupid mistake. And when I saw the situation go down and you take a look into it, you say, that's where I messed up. No, that was me. I can change. And that's the benefit, is Allah showing you how to become better. Now, the beautiful thing about this, right, is all those situations that you feel that you got into, that you made a mistake and all that, Allah can erase that out of the people's minds. But it's all about you connecting to Him, right? Because He's got control over everything. So, no beginning. I can go on with that. And also, too, the next thing, the next attribute. So, there's 13 in total that I'm going to give you. So you should be on number 3 now. The next one is no end, endlessness, infinite. That God is infinite. Infinite in His wisdom. Infinite in His mercy. Infinite in His love. Infinite in His justice. Infinite. Now, one of the things that this does for us, understanding that God is infinite in all of these different aspects, is number one, well, in the next realm, when your soul leaves your body and we go through this whole process, that you'll be in an infinite place, inshallah ta'ala, of bliss. It's never going to end. You'll be with infinitely. That is actually something that's embedded within you, that your soul moves on. It's actually something that's not going to just disappear. That your existence is not actually going to just disappear. That's another thing, that when this world ends or this experience in this life ends, you just don't disappear. It's not just what no, it's going to be a process. You know, I was actually somebody sent me a video on WhatsApp the other day, and the sheikh was actually, the teacher was talking amongst the people. I got to find out which group it was, but he was talking amongst the people about getting prepared for the afterlife. And he died right in the actual speech. And the last things that he said before that were, La ilaha illallah. Because he saw the angel coming. You know, I just actually had a friend that's very interesting. You can talk to many people who are close to death sometimes. You'll see this experience they start to have, these things that start to happen, right? It's very real. So, again, but God is infinite in His mercy, in His love, in His wisdom, in His knowledge, in His understanding. He understands everything completely, everything that's going on with you, everything that's not going on with you, everything that you want to go on with you, right? So what this understands for us also too, this does for us inside of ourselves, is understanding that God is infinite, that there's also too an infinite reward waiting for us, but also too in this world, that there's infinite possibilities with God. Nothing is impossible. There's no situation you can't get out of. It doesn't mean that things can change. Things can be, He can flip your mindset just like that. And the hellhole that you thought you were in is paradise. And one of the great stories in the Quran is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Abraham. Great story. He's being thrown into the fire, right? Catapulted into the fire. One of my friends went to Iraq and he said that the statues are actually still there of the gods that they used to worship. They're huge. You have the pictures. They're actually still there. So anyways, they went to catapult him into the fire. And what happens? In the midst of it, the angel comes to Jibreel alayhi salam. It's a very interesting story. He comes in and says, is there anything that you need from God? Right? But see, this is the reality, is that he's always with God. So it doesn't matter. So he says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right? There's no power and strength except God. Right? There's no power and strength except God, right? So, or he puts his trust, there's different phrases, but basically what he's saying, he's understanding that there's no God but Allah, and Allah has control over this, and what's happening to me, Allah understands that. And so when he hits the fire, take a look at this. When he hits the fire, what happens? It becomes cool. It becomes a garden. It becomes a place that doesn't even hurt him. And so the beautiful people who interpretate the Quran say a beautiful thing, is that this is the reality of a believer, is that the fires and trials and tribulations that you think that happen in your life, Allah can make them cool for you. But you just have to understand that He has ultimate power, that you are a servant in a beautiful way, and that you are a beautiful gift from Him. And He's, it's a beautiful thing. Just have connection, and Allah will show you about Him in your life. But it's this connection, right? So this infinite thing. Allah has infinite possibilities and infinite things, right? So certain things that you think in your life, don't let yourself get narrow and constricted within it. Open yourself up to Allah. This is the relief within our belief, though. These are the deeper things of just when you read the book, and then you begin to enact them in your life, right? Okay, another thing is that God is self-sufficient. That's the next attribute in what they call the negating attributes. So he is self-sufficient. So if he is self-sufficient, that means you are dependent upon him. All right, so this is the point of this talk now that I want to mention about provision. All right, in our lives, we all in here, hopefully, we have jobs, we're trying to attain jobs, or we need certain things, or we need monetary funds to get certain things in this life, right? Or wrong? You know, can anybody buy a car for free? Can anybody go get a Tesla, just walk up on the parking lot and go get it for free? No, it's not. I don't think, unless Elon Musk maybe gives you one, I don't know if it's going to happen, right? Period. Even the food today, right, there was a person who had to provide it. There was some type of work that they did within the world that was valued. There was some type of thing that they did that was valued that provided the pizza today for it. Or they put it in the donation box or however it went, but it was still something that had to happen for that to be provided. Then even before that, we start taking a look, right? The pizza had to be made. Cheese had to be developed even before that. The cows had to be milked. The cows actually had to grow. We can go on and on and on and on and on, right? Right? So we see that ultimately if you trace back that pizza, ultimately it came from God. You see it. You can even just see it just like if you trace it back from the water coming out of the sky, which we have no control over, to the actual falling down to the cow actually eating the grass and all those types of things, and even the cow even getting pregnant, which we don't have control over if it comes through. If it's healthy, is it going to be a healthy calf? Is it going to produce certain milk? What is it going to do? You don't have control over any of that. You can put them together maybe to mate and hope that it goes well, but it's ultimately on the law to make everything successful. You see that. So one of the things that we should understand also too, that God is self-sufficient, is that understanding in reality that your provision is really from God. That the things that you're provided for is really from God, right? And the more that you connect yourself to God, the better your provision will be. Now, I'm not saying that you become multimillionaires. I'm not saying that because that may not be what God wants from you. But you will find great provision within the people that you meet. You will find that your $100 maybe goes like $1,000 or $10,000. Or you will find contentment within the little things and satisfaction within the little things of life, and they're amazing. You know? You can ask my mom. She used to try all the time when I was a kid, right, to get me to read. And I never would want to read ever. Now I love to read books. I don't even have enough time to read books. Right? I need to make more time. And that's ultimately with God. It's just I haven't put enough effort for it. So these are the things. But ultimately, when you understand that God is self-sufficient, right, and everything's actually in reality coming from him, then it should give you some ease in when you put your best foot forward. Understand that God has made it come out like that for some reason. You know, I'm pretty sure Jamal, alhamdulillah, he's very good at this. He does a lot to try to get people to come to the class. And I'm pretty sure there's certain times when he's handed out flyers and he's done all that he could do, and there might have been 3 people who showed up at the class. That's ultimately from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He put his best foot forward, and maybe those 3 people are like 100 people in each, what they will do. You never know. There's different things sometimes that Allah will do. There's one great scholar, he's up in the Bay, but there was another great scholar that came from Egypt. I heard this story. And he had a dream, right? So dreams are actually a real big thing in Islam. But he had a dream that there was going to be like 300 people at the event. So the scholar came, and when he got there was 3 people. But who he was teaching, he said, I understood that there was 200 people within inside of that person. And what that person started to do, he started a whole Islamic university and all types of stuff. So sometimes you don't understand the wisdom in what God's doing. You won't understand it. But if you open up your heart more, a lot of times he'll start showing you. That's why, especially for speakers and things of that nature, for the mannerisms of a person who is teaching, they're not supposed to come in and want a lot of people. It doesn't matter. They just come in and teach. There's one person here, they come in and teach. That's just how, because it doesn't matter, because that's ultimately with God, right? So, again, but the self-sufficiency, also too in your job. You know, you do what you can do. You know, you do what you can do. And certain situations that you may be in where you're in a financial struggle, look at them as an opportunity to get closer to God, but also too, God's trying to show you a sign many times in these situations. Everybody goes through a struggle sometimes. And this is where you develop. This is where the development comes. You know, these tests sometimes are not tests of to beat you down. They're actually to elevate you, to get some of the fitna is actually what they call refining the gold. It comes from fatana. It means to refine the gold. So you're going through this beautiful refinement process. But when you have the belief within you, and it's solid, and you work on it, and you negate these things that I'm talking about, you start, like, to give you an example, when you go to a job interview, obviously you go dressed well, you smell well, you come prepared, right? You do the best that you can do. But ultimately, when you do the best that you can do, know that the ultimate outcome is with Allah. It's Allah that can change the heart of that person to do one thing. It's Allah that can do, He can just do that. Allah, you can just do just like that. Sometimes you'll be surprised how it all just works. But if you get worried and you put all the focus on the actual individual and don't see Allah behind the situation, then you'll lose yourself. This is the thing. You'll start losing yourself. Okay? All right. So also too, again, beginninglessness, endlessness, right? Self-sufficiency, oneness. Also too, another attribute that we have to understand. That's why when you say La ilaha, and then we get to Allah in just a second, oneness. Now, one of the things that oneness, that God has no partners. There's no other existence beside Him. There's no other deities. There's nothing, different interpretations. Nothing worthy of worship, right? That's an interpretation of La ilaha illallah. So the next thing is oneness. Now, what does oneness do for us? Everything in this world is interconnected. Everything in this world is interconnected. That nothing is outside the grasp of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is outside of His power. Everything is happening as it should. Everything is happening in a very precise manner. Now, it doesn't mean that things can't change or that we can't act differently as human beings. But even when something goes wrong or somebody does something wrong, there's still a little bit of light and there's still a process within it that has a wisdom, right? Even when something breaks, there's a reason behind it, right? Even when there's an accident, it's actually not an accident, it's very calculated. You fell asleep at the wheel because you were up for so late. You were watching something on Netflix that really wasn't all that great, right? You understand? All these things were happening, right? You were doing all this, and then when you got into the car, you didn't know that your brain was fried, so you drank a little bit of coffee, and you got really wired up, and for whatever reason, something happened within your molecular structure to shut your brain down for a minute. It's very calculated. Don't get me wrong. It's very calculated. And all of a sudden, you ended up in somebody's front lawn, right? And alhamdulillah, nobody got hurt. But now you got to pay $2,000 for the new fence, right? Actually, the reason why I mentioned that actually happened on one of the jobs that I went. The guy ran actually into the house like that. But really, seriously. So, but there's reasons. Even you missed the pedal because you had your sandals on instead of sneakers. There's all these different reasons, right, that we can get into accidents, right? But they're actually very calculated. Very calculated. And there's certain things that happen for certain reasons. For many of you who have converted into Islam, take a look at the time in your life when you converted. Was it a time of maybe struggle and thought process and tribulation? Maybe Allah was showing you, hey, let's make a change here. There's many different things you can, everybody has their own individual story. But just take a look at it and what was going on, the wisdom behind it. So oneness, everything is interconnected. Right? Al-hakumu takathur. Don't let the multiplicity delude you. That's one of the things it says in the Quran. Don't let it fool you. It's all interconnected. It's all good. Okay? So that's one. And then also to incomparability. The next attribute, the negating attribute, is incomparability. Nothing is comparable to God. One of the things that you'll commonly hear, especially as new Muslims, subhanallah. Right? I remember we used to say it I remember when I first learned it, right? When I was a new Muslim, I learned it with a P, right? So I said I used to say subhanallah, right? And I then finally learned it was a little different when you learn the Arabic, right? But alhamdulillah, one of the things that you'll see is that means that God is transcendent or glorious above everything that you can understand. That there's nothing comparable to Him. So just the same way that you got into a situation, you can get out of it. There's nothing that Allah can't do. So don't ever belittle the divine power in your life. That will help you. There's never a situation that you can't get out of that can't come to some better result. It's never over until, obviously, death. It's never over. Never count yourself out because you're with Allah. You're with Allah. You got Allah with you. You have the best. You're sitting here in this class, and if you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the best. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be ultimately, a lot of times, what are you doing that you can do better with the gifts that you have been given? So that's the negating category. So we're getting into the last category. So we first went over again. The self-attribute is understanding that God exists, right? Then the negating ones, right? So I said you have to negate first until we can affirm things well. So the negating attributes are 5, very simple. It's beginninglessness, endlessness, self-sufficiency, oneness, and incomparability. You know, these are all things you have to believe in about Allah. This is like, I'm telling you things that you have to. And it's going to help you out. So the last thing is the affirmative attributes, the things that we affirm, the things that and this is the beautiful thing, is that you'll see within these affirmative attributes, right, that there's actually a very good point of reference, or a very good relationship that we have with them. So you take a look at it, right? Number 1, that God has life, that He is living, right? That He's living, ever living. Now remember, life with God is not like us. It doesn't have a point of origin. He's ever living. He will never die. There's no ceasing. There's no stopping of His existence, right? Now His life is still, like, He understands, and so we're going to the different attributes, right? So one of the things that God says in the Quran, like, do you deny, like, what gives you life? So that's one of the things about Islam, is that it actually gives you life. It actually gives you life. It's not here to take away life or make things into all this rule form thing, but it's actually here to give you life. The structure, what it does, it gives you structure to grow and develop. So if anybody in here lifts weights or does exercise, you understand about structure very well. If you're a personal trainer or any of that type of stuff, or anybody's that even been on a diet plan and wants certain results in their body, everything has a structure and a plan to it, right? The keto diet is the big thing now, right? But you have to. There's certain things you have to eat. You can eat or you can't eat to get these certain results. You just have to do it. You can't eat the carbs too crazy. You can't do this at a certain time. Or if you want to do intermittent fasting, right? Those types of things, right? So we even do fasting in our religion, all the time. Prophet ﷺ used to do at least 3 times a month, if not more. So, but it gives us rule and structure, and it gives us things to really develop a different part of ourselves that we don't really talk about, especially in this age of human history, which is the spiritual aspect. Our soul is a very real thing. If you just take a look at anybody's experienced anybody who's passed away, or anybody's experienced something with somebody passing away, or been in front of somebody who's passed away, you see that this thing just leaves that person. The body is still there, and even some of the situations, people are like brand new, like they're 20 years old, and just, oh my God, what happened? It just passed away by natural causes at 20 years old. Right? I was teaching one of the guys in prison, and we were there, and he was with us, and he made salat, and it was about to be Ramadan, and he just passed away in the cell. And they said, wow, what happened? He said, well, yeah, man, he was working in the kitchen, made salat that night, and he just went back to the cell, and he passed away. Rahimullah. And it was a wake-up call for all the guys in the class. They were like, how did it happen? What happened? And he just went to sleep. How big? He's 24. Yeah, just went to sleep. Happens like that. Allah takes your soul. It's time. But what I'm saying again is that Allah has life, right? And this deen, again, is to give us life. And even understanding in those situations where you would think that it's all over, it's not all over, actually. You may meet that person again. This is real stuff, so I'm not sugarcoating anything here, guys. So just letting you know, you may meet that person again. Hopefully we meet all of them. We all meet each other in a different place. But it's not over. So that's what I'm trying to say. God has life. Okay, next thing. Also, too, God has knowledge of everything. What it could be, what it couldn't be, what it never will be, what it will be, what the possibilities are, what the variables are. He understands everything in your situation. And things are happening to you, everything for a reason. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that there's a cure for every disease. There's a cure for every element. Maybe you just haven't found it within your life, but there's a cure for every situation that you get yourself into. And the place or the source that you're going to have to go to is Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're going to find your guidance within that. It's going to be from one of those principles someplace. Even if a doctor prescribes you something of medicine or whatever the situation is, you're going to find some principle within it that had to lead you to that. You'll see it. It comes from a God and His Messenger. That's where the sources of knowledge come from. Okay, So God has knowledge, infinite knowledge. Remember, everything with God is infinite. It's all the things that we went into negating. Also, too, God has power. And also, too, God has will. So these are two more attributes that you have to understand. He has power over everything. And also, too, he has a will. Now, the thing about will that I want to explain very quickly. Sometimes we will something and Allah allows us to do it. Okay? That's what happens. Like we want to do something and Allah allows us to do it. And sometimes we want to do something and Allah doesn't allow us to do it. Right? But there's a wisdom in everything. But it's all contingent or it's all based upon His will to allow us to do things. Now, the goal for us as Muslims, as people of faith, is to actually begin to submit our will to what God wants. And that's actually, now this is the thing, right? So it takes a struggle in a little bit, but that's actually where you're going to find your freedom. That's the trick. That's the test here. That's actually where you're going to find your freedom. If you ever take a look at the list of sins in Islam, right? The things that are sin, right? They're actually called sin. It's very simple what sin is. Sin is basically going away from what you're naturally almost disposed to do. Or it's going into some animal-like type of action. Just take a look at them. It's very quickly, right? Even with the situation like intoxicants, right? Which is a big thing because California allows you to smoke marijuana and stuff now. Has a lot of different intoxicants that are legal as long as you're a certain age. Well, Islam is preventing us from hindering our intellect from really properly understanding and seeing things. And anybody who's ever had a substance abuse problem understands this. Nobody's ever going to negate it. You can't say that alcohol was like the shine of my life and did an amazing thing for me. You know, me taking a couple shots of Jack Daniels was just amazing for me in the morning every morning, and it did great things for me. It really didn't. And then it became something much more. You know, so these types of things. So it's always doing something for us, right? And what the thing is the sin only harms us. It's just harming ourselves. That's what Allah is just telling you. Like, just stay away from it. It's just going to harm you in this realm. It's just going to harm you in this place. Right? But again, so power and will, Allah gives us certain power and certain will. To understand this very clearly, because now when you get into power and will, you get into like destiny type of thing. It's very simple. Very simple to understand destiny a lot of times. Ali radiallahu anh, one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ in household, a man came to him and said, "Can you tell me about destiny?" And he said, "Okay, this is how you understand." He said, "Lift up one leg." He said, "Okay." So he lifted up one leg. He said, "Okay, lift up the other leg." Well, he said, "I can't do this except falling down." He said, "That's exactly what destiny is. There's certain things you can do and certain things you can't." Meaning, like, there's certain things that you have power and ability over, and you do it to the best of your ability, but just some things you're not going to have control over. And that's where you understand that Allah has a bigger plan for something, or Allah is doing something else. So you put your best foot forward in your situation, in your capacity, what you can do. Okay? So that's that. So now we're on number 4. So quickly, to go through the last 3, it's simple. Is that Allah has hearing, seeing, and also to speech. Right? And this is totally different than a human being. Meaning that Allah knows everything, sees everything in your life, analyzes everything in your life. Allah is responding to you. He hears all the du'as that you're making. He hears what's going on within your heart, what's your needs, what's your desires, what's your emotions, what's your drives. He's connected to you in every way, and also too, He has speech. The way that He speaks to us is through the Quran, and also too in your life. Also too in your life. Revelation is a sign of what goes on in the world. In your life, many times Allah is going to communicate to you. Don't do that. Well, He sent somebody to do something, and maybe I should stay away from this. There's going to be a communication between you and God, and you should keep it. Through prayer, through doing good deeds, through doing these things. So this is somewhat of the relief in our belief of what it begins to do. Is this beautiful communication, this beautiful acceptance, this beautiful connection with God that we begin to develop through our practices, through our understanding, and becoming conscious in our lives of God within it. You know? So like even the situations like, my teachers would say, because my teachers are amazing, everything is a sign from God. Everything for you is a sign from God. It's about how do you interpretate it and how do you open yourself up to Him. You know? So alhamdulillah, so are there any questions about anything that I said? As of right now, before I conclude with a concluding statement. Okay, so the last category is what they call the attributes of the affirmative attributes. Okay, so there's 7. So it's life. God has life. He has knowledge. He has will. He has power. He has hearing, seeing, and speech. Okay? So there's 13 together in all these things. Now, if you go back home today and you start to really process these things in your life, right? And start to really do this, like the next time you go to your job interview or the next time that you interact with your child and all these types of things, right? You know, and you're doing the best that you can to really mold them and do the best that you can and all these things. But what have you learned from Allah from that situation today? How did the child actually, when the child was running around, how did that teach you? What did that teach you about yourself today? What did Allah express to you through that? You know, there's different ways that you can begin to process this. And a lot of times you'll be saying, oh, I could be more patient, or I could do this, or, man, it was just actually the beauty of life in and of itself and the beauty and excitement. It's not always that you need to improve. It's maybe just He wants you to experience something. You know? Sometimes, you know, when you lose a loved one, it actually gives you more life. One of the things that the Prophet, peace be upon him, actually told us to do, he said, reflect upon death, right? And so sometimes we think about, oh my God, what's wrong with him? No, subhanAllah. It actually will give you more life. You'll cherish the moments. You'll make the best out of the situation. You'll also to understand that you're preparing your soul for a journey to the next world. There's a lot of things that will give you life within this. To reflect upon that, to go to say, well, you know, this is actually a process that I can't run away from. You know, there is some certain things in life that there is no second chance. That's why relationships and everything are really important, you know. So these things, this is the thing of our faith. Any more questions? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's very, mashallah. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah. 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 Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, so it's, yeah, because that natural, so it's beautiful that she mentions that, because that natural inclination is there. It's already there. And then what the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does is confirm the reality of it through his actions, through the way that he is, through the way that he miraculously did certain things because his connection with Allah, right? So it's a beautiful thing. Also, too, another thing that I wanted to mention is that the next topic, next time that I'll be here, whenever, I think it's probably next month, because she mentioned something very profound right there. Said, first, to really get a true sweet tasting feeling of our faith, you have to go through like a process of like clearing out. Especially for the new Muslims, anybody who's just taken their Shahada or is thinking about it, one of the things that I want to mention, and hopefully Jamal will excuse me for taking about 2 extra minutes, but one of the things that's very important, guys, is this, and ladies, sisters, is that if you really want to experience like some of the sweetness of salat, like when we make salat, because a lot of times for sometimes it's just actually just movements and you're trying to just get the words right and things of that nature, and it actually comes down to removing certain things within your life. And she just hit it right on the head. It's actually removing certain things in your life and open yourself up to your spirit, or open yourself up to the spiritual aspect of yourself. And unfortunately, we live in a time where a lot of times the phones and things of this nature and many other components distract this reality. But as you remove certain things, and that's why I went on the spiritual journey of Islam, and one of the first things that we do, and even when you take a look at a traditional textbook, it tells you about, and probably Jamal's probably told this, you should go home and make ghusl and do 2 rakats, right? There's actually a whole thing. That repentance and seeking forgiveness and beginning on that process of clearing is the first part. Okay? So it's a very big thing, negating. So even la ilaha illallah, and even in our lives, we have to negate and get rid of certain things that are harmful to us. So that's it. Any more questions before we end? And I know Jamal's got some stuff. I apologize, Habibi, huh? Okay, that's an amazing question. Inshallah, we'll talk after. We could, because I know he's got to come up. That's a great question though. How does du'a play in God's will? MashaAllah. That's a really good question. But it's actually very simple. So, do you want me to, or you have to come up, right? Yeah. So, inshallah, we'll talk after. No problem. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.
Right, I got this. Thank you so much, Brother Jesse. We want to thank him for taking time out and joining us here. Great to see everyone here. I want to welcome everyone that might be just joining us to our Sunday Islam 101 class. May Allah reward you. May God bless you all. A few announcements. So first, of course, thanking Brother Jesse. And by extension, we have a lot of new faces, but I also see Brother Jesse's mother here. If you don't mind, just raising your hand for us. Jesse's mother is joining us here today, so we want to welcome her as well. Thank you so much. You should be very proud of your son. So I'm very proud of him, and I learned so much from him. And I'm not sure he's learning anything from me. I have nothing to teach, but I learn more from him. So may Allah bless him. So a few things. I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page. Number one is, as you guys know, we're very blessed in this community. We have a great diversity in our community. But one of the greatest things is we have a huge Latino Muslim community, growing Latino Muslim community. So what we are doing is, of course, offering classes in Spanish for those that might be more comfortable about learning Islam in Spanish. So we're going to actually have that session today in about 15 minutes. So right when we conclude here, for those of you, if you want to stay, it's going to be about like an hour and 15 minutes or so, right around there. We're going to have our beginning of our classes in Spanish. And I would encourage you to join us and stay for that, inshallah, God willing. Number two, as you guys are walking outside, as you know, we're having a blood drive. So if anybody's in a position to donate any blood to save lives and so forth, just make sure to register at the table outside. I want to also ask you for forgiveness. We didn't have babysitting today, as was, I think, somewhat obvious. My sincere apologies. Sister Jen was just not able to make it in today. For those of you that brought your kids, my sincere apologies. We always want to make this a family affair, right? So if you're coming, you're bringing your family and the kids. We want us to all grow together. So I know we look forward to those services. My sincere apologies that we were not able to accommodate that today. So don't be too hard on me on the reviews or anything like that. Just kidding. The other thing is, today was the first session of our Quran 101 class, the Quran class for beginners or somebody that might be new to Islam. And I see a few of you that were actually able to attend. How many of you have intention of maybe joining that class? So I'll back up 2 steps. So for those of you that might be new to Islam or maybe considering Islam, you want to learn how to recite and read the Quran in Arabic language, by first just identifying the letters and so forth, just from the beginning level. We have a class here every Sunday that we had a winter break, so we started today. We do every Sunday from 12 to 1 p.m. It's a free class. I highly encourage you to join that class. No, this is in Arabic. Yeah, so the Quran, yeah. So there's another class, I think, there's a lot of things going on at IFC. May Allah bless you all, inshallah. I'll try to process this as easy as possible. So this class is learning how to read the Quran in Arabic. But starting from the beginning of just identifying the letters, right? So this is something, of course, we as Muslims, recommitted Muslims or new Muslims should definitely learn how to do, right? So please try to pencil that in every Sunday from 12 to 1 p.m. We meet next door, room 203, which is upstairs. You just have to register, and then they give you whatever supplies that you might need for the next time, and then we go from there. Any questions regarding that class or what I've said so far, just to make sure we're on the same page? Everyone's okay? Okay, perfect. Just throw something at me if I don't get your attention. That was a joke. It's okay to laugh. You guys are so serious today. Must be the pizza or something, all right? Just relax. Okay. Another way, and I made the announcement inside, is I want to make sure everyone is aware about the different activities and classes that we have here at IIOC, right? Sometimes, like a day like today, we had like 4, 5, 6 different things going on. Some of them are overlapping, right? But we want to make sure that we can accommodate everyone, whether it's the youth, whether it's our new Muslim community, whether it's the seniors in our community, whatever it might be, right? So a good way to find out are going to be as follows, okay? The following ways. Number one is our YouTube page, right? So if any of the sermons that you've listened to on Fridays or the Friday night programs or any special events that we've had here, if you want to go back and just benefit from it, because we hope to stream these live or record it so that the whole world can benefit, all you do is just go to YouTube. In the search bar, just plug in IIOC TV. IIOC TV. So that's our main YouTube page. So if you want to kind of benefit from that, which I would highly encourage you to do, just make sure to subscribe and then you get notified and all that good stuff. Now for our Sunday class, we have another YouTube page, which is IIOC. Fill in the blank. You're scaring me. I've done this so many times. Outreach, thank you so much. I knew everybody knew it. You guys are just being humble. IIOC Outreach. That's specifically for this class. And any maybe new Muslim or recommitted Muslim related classes, that'll be IIOC Outreach. Again, plug that into your YouTube page in the search bar and you'll find our page. Just make sure to subscribe. Number 2, of course, is our Facebook, right? So just go to IIOC. You can just follow us or join us on Facebook as well. And number 3 is our website, right? IIOC.com. We have weekly emails that we send out so that you know who's giving the Friday sermon, who's doing the Friday night talk, when there's a blood drive, when there's a different activity or event in the community. You simply go to IIOC.com. You scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and then there's a place where you can insert your email right there. You insert it, submit, and then you should be notified. You just, I think, verify, confirm your email, and then you're updated with that. Now, I just mentioned 3 ways to find out about what your community is doing. I want to ask you sincerely, how many of you are following us all 3 ways? 1. Okay, so I just mentioned 3 ways that you can find out about, and those people that might be streaming this right now as well, I mentioned 3 ways that you can find out about what your community here at IIOC is doing, right? Those 3 ways, the website, YouTube page, and Facebook. How many of you are actually doing all 3? Just a show of hands, please, as high as you can get. So we have probably like 25, 30 people here, and I have 4 people that did that. So I need everyone to please, of course I can't force you, but I would highly recommend you to please know what your community is doing by following us all 3 ways, because most postings should be on all 3. I mean, they should but there might be some postings, they have 2 hands going up, right? Some postings might be on exclusively to one outlet or the other. So just make sure we do all 3, please, if it's okay. Again, I want to thank the volunteers as well. Sorry, just a few more things. We're very honored that every Sunday, as you guys know, when we come, the tables are ready, the chairs are ready, the mics, the food, all that good stuff. We have people volunteering and donating. So I want to thank those people that we know and those people that we don't know. I want to thank you so much. If you're in a position to ever want to help on a Sunday by maybe helping us in the kitchen or table setup or streaming, live streaming, all that good stuff, just private message me and that'll be a great help. And last and certainly not least, our mentorship program. I'm going to keep reminding everyone just because we're revamping our mentorship program, so I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Now, when somebody embraces Islam, right, as you know, here at IIOC, we have a very unique model, and that is that we have our weekly classes, which is this class Sunday, and then one every Friday, right, 6:30 to 7:30. We have these 2 weekly classes every week. I want you guys to make sure, and they're 2 different classes, so make sure you guys are up to date with that. Once you attend 3 of these classes somewhat consistently, like a week in or a week out, not like months apart. Once you attend your 3rd class, our program that we have regarding mentorship is as follows. We have trained mentors in the community that will work with you one-on-one on the basics of Islam, like how to make wudu, the cleaning, the washing up, right? How to pray, going over a certain curriculum that we have. And that is very important because this is really good. This is a classroom setting. However, you need something private as well, where it's just one-on-one, where you can ask people or you can ask your mentor maybe some private questions as well, right? So that's very important. So if you have no idea what I'm saying regarding mentorship, please see me so I can kind of fill you in. But for those of you, if you're very close to completing your 3rd class, or say you've completed your 3rd class, but you had no idea what to do next, you are ready for mentorship. But I can't force that upon you. I would highly recommend that you have a mentor. And this is, of course, is a free program. We don't charge for that. So please keep that in mind. And of course, just a reminder for Brother Jesse, as you know, he's part of Link Outside, which is a prison outreach program. So what we do is we actually go into prisons and jails, and we visit our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. Some of them are new Muslims, some of them are not Muslim, but they're learning about Islam. So, and we also have a pen pal system. So if you're interested in that in any shape, capacity, or form, you can see Brother Jesse. He'll be here, I think, for a few minutes. If he has to go, I'm here as well. But this is something that you should try to do your best to sign up and help out, volunteering as much as you can, inshallah, okay? God willing. Whew. That was a lot. That was a lot. That was like a thank you. I appreciate it. That was like a lecture in and of itself, right? So any questions, I'm so sorry, I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So any questions for myself regarding logistics or classes or anything like that? Everyone's okay? Okay, so keep in mind, in 10 minutes, we're going to start our Islam 101 in Spanish. So if you can stay with that and stay with us, that'll be great. What we're going to do is just fold the tables and chairs. We're going to put them on the racks. We're just going to keep this front row, the brothers and sisters here as it is, because for the class. But the back rows, we're going to go ahead and put, inshallah. So thank you so much. May Allah reward you all. If there's anything left over in the back, please help us out by taking it home. And we'll see you guys soon. Assalamu alaikum.